Now today we're replacing the harmonic balancer on this CTS-V. There's a lot of work to do. Let's start by cleaning up the top of the engine. And in a little bit. This car is very frustrating. I have not been this frustrated working on a car since I was in my mid-20s, and I'm not even kidding. Now looking at this belt, at first glance, everything seems to be in good shape. In other words, it's not cracking, it's not separating, but look at the sides here. You see this? And then there's a gouge right into the belt. So that tells me as the balancer is spinning, or the crankshaft pulley, the metal portion of the pulley was digging into the belt itself, and it's starting to degrade. I think there's another section too. Yeah, you see right here? So it's a good thing we're doing this. Let's keep going. And now we have a much better view of what we're trying to accomplish. So right here is the crankshaft pulley, or the harmonic balancer, well known to go on LS engines. So I have the parts arriving tomorrow morning. We can finish cleaning everything up. Right here is a belt for the AC compressor, which is really tired. Great time to be replacing this. And if you are doing this on a CTS-V, remove the radiator and the cooling assembly, the cooling fan assembly, as one unit. Just note that you have a line on the bottom. Disconnect this line, because if you pull up on the radiator, you can break the line or the clip, etc. So just be careful, make sure everything is really cleaned away. And right here we have the starter. I've already removed the electrical connections, just two typically on most starters, two fasteners, and this thing comes out of the way. You'll see why this has to be removed. Oh, this is tight. The motor mount is blocking everything. Why do you fight me so much, car? This car is fighting me constantly. I haven't had a car like this in years, where it just fights and fights and fights. It doesn't want to cooperate. There's a plastic connector here, and I don't want this to break. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Because if the starter smashes into it, then that's a connector I gotta replace. I don't want to do that if I can avoid it. Good God, it's like, I can't even get this thing out. So I'm sort of stuck at this point. The starter is striking not only that engine mount, but also this catalytic converter. Now the GM manual states remove the catalytic converter. So that's what I'm going to do. There's two fasteners on top, two on the bottom. I've sprayed everything down with some WD-40, PB Blaster, etc. I don't think this is going to be too hard to break loose, simply because this vehicle comes from Florida. So let's get it done. The two top fasteners, too difficult for me to film and remove at the same time, but I am going to use an impact. If you don't have an impact, you can always use a breaker bar. The key thing here, make sure you're securely on the fastener. If you're just a little bit off, you're going to round it out. Oh, it's only my knee. And what I will say about this car, it loves to fight you. This is not a fun car to work on. It really isn't. Wow, still doesn't want to clear them. Come on. You see what I'm saying? Just fights you, this car. Very, very frustrating. Would you believe there's still not enough room? The starter is actually striking the stud coming out of the exhaust manifold. I'm flabbergasted. I cannot believe how tight this is. Now, I was thinking maybe the motor mount failed and collapsed. But what I did off camera is just raise slightly the engine from underneath with a floor jack and a block of wood, and the whole car raises. So the motor mount did not collapse. It's so tight. So now manifold has to come out. This thing was just fighting and fighting me. So now the manifold is loose. We should have enough room here. Hopefully now. There we go. Whew. And here it is finally. This was a lot of work to get out. You can see right here, this is where the end of the manifold, the stud was striking. I removed every fastener on the manifold, the exhaust manifold, except one, just so I don't lose, the gaskets fall down and so forth. So it's still planted on the cylinder head, but enough wiggle room to now get the starter out. This is why we're doing this. So after all of that hard work, this is precisely why. This tool locks the flywheel from rotating. Look how nicely engineered this tool is. It's not cheap. I'll link this below in case any LS guys are looking to do this at home. But now, let's try to remove that balancer. So now comes the fun part, breaking loose this fastener. Now, to do this, I'm using a breaker bar. This is 18 inches in length, 1/2 inch drive 24 mil socket, and then now stubby, small socket. You don't want anything too long because you want to keep as level as possible. And then a piece of pipe. This I purchased from Home Depot like almost 10 years ago. It's 1 by 24, okay, so another 2 feet. This will give you the leverage to break this loose. 240 foot-pounds, by the way. That's what the fastener is torqued to. 240 foot-pounds plus some, because it's a torque to yield bolt. So get ready. There she is. And we finally have that balancer removed. The other thing I noticed, I checked all of the pulleys and the accessories here. Everything looks to be in good shape except for the bearing here for the tensioner. Just too much play. AC Delco, I think it was 22 bucks or so. Again, we'll be here tomorrow. So we finally removed this balancer. Very quickly, if you're curious on how long this took, roughly 6 hours. Now, admittedly, I'm filming. That doubles the time very often because you're trying to get the right angle, you're trying to get the right lighting, Sometimes the mic doesn't work and I have to reshoot the scene. So, you know, sometimes it doesn't work as easy as you want it to. But if you are looking to do this for the first time, I would say do it over the weekend. Start Saturday morning for removal, and then maybe Saturday night for reinstallation, or first thing Sunday morning, because you may run into you need drive belts, you need a bearing, other things also. If you take a look at the balancer in the end, you see some oil here. There's an oil seal on the end of the crankshaft. We're going to replace that in the next episode. Also regarding the fastener, I'm going with ARP. I've already purchased it, not GM. So an ARP bolt. You also need torque wrench that can torque a bolt up to 240 foot-pounds. So I had to buy this online. Again, I'll go over all of this in the next episode. Just want to give you a little heads up in case you are looking to do this. And I think what I'm going to do is replace the starter. Just because it's a lot of work to get out. I don't have any records of this being replaced. I'm looking for a date on this. So I don't know if it's original, but if I have to replace this again, it's a lot of work. I'd rather just get a new one and then just heat wrap it and just be smart about it. So that's in the next episode. Hope to see you then. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.